Just for fun, I thought I'd publish another one back to back. Had a little slack over this Christmas New Year period, and I've got a couple in the vault that I want to get moving out there to you all. This one's with Adam Keegan, another legend of the sport. Funnily enough, going back to back with Ben Holland makes a lot of sense for Adam Keegan, given how intertwined they were with each other in their careers over the years. Had a really good yarn with him over a wild turkey or two, and had a nice baked dinner with the family up on the Sunshine Coast. Absolute legend. Love him to bits. And I'm sure if you haven't heard his story and you learn more, you'll love him too. Enjoy the podcast. Thanks a lot for the support again, and expect another one real soon. Bye.
So I don't know how this works.
Well, I'm gonna just say cheers to Adam Keegan on the podcast.
Legend, this guy. I haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, well, we always seem to get along really well from the very beginning, though.
You've always been a good guy. Good family, good upbringing.
You too. I get in trouble when I consume any beverages or eat during the podcast because a lot of people out there get really grossed out by hearing like the sounds of chewing. But they're gonna have to deal with this one because you poured up a bourbon and a Coke.
I'm definitely gonna keep having.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, I've got a day off at home, so I live it up.
But what's going on today? Like you're about to get off into the mines tomorrow.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for, and what's the go? Like how full on is it? I mean, it's still a thing in Australia. It's kind of still full on.
Yeah, so I've probably 10 years ago I got into the mines, but before that I was doing, I've run an electrical business on the sunny coast for years and years. And when work slowed here, I got in there. I was lucky enough to have friends that sort of gave me an open door, a way in, because that's the hardest thing there is just getting in. Now I do what they call like mine maintenance. So I work all over different mines, just virtually I work on the biggest machines in the world, just keeping that constant stream of coal running.
Yeah. And is it a tough job? Like, I mean, I've met a few guys who do this kind of stuff. Like, is it quite draining mentally, those long days and those kind of the isolation of it all? Like, how do you deal with that type of part of the deal?
Like, it's long days. I normally do like 13-hour days.
Yeah.
That's before travelling to and from site. So,
Jeez.
And then you get back, you eat, you talk to home quickly. But it's all like I'm very fortunate because we travel a lot as a family. So all I do is I put my head down, lock into it, and then we go away for 3 weeks or a month at a time and just go, all right, well, make good money, work hard, but then we live it up.
Yeah.
So, and that's, if I didn't do that, we couldn't do the other. So it's obviously the thing that I miss is when I'm away, I can't surf, I can't, health-wise, and because I do like day shift to night shift, it's it's draining.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like at the moment, I'm lucky to have a job because a lot of the world doesn't.
Yeah, totally. Getting into the electrical trade, you said that's about a 10-year ago decision. Is that a decade ago? You'd say?
No.
Or
So
longer?
when I did that, when I started my apprenticeship, I was 22.
Right, you were 22 when you started your apprenticeship.
Yep. So what happened was, I was doing the world tour at the time, and bad boy sort of went no longer. So I lost about half of my income from bodyboarding. I went and had a meeting with Rip Curl, and they sort of went, well, what I was asking for, they laughed and sort of went, well, no bodyboarders paid what you're asking for.
Right.
And then I went, okay, cool, I've got to go and get a job. So I signed a 4-year contract with Rio Pipo, started my apprenticeship. But I met my wife. I didn't want to be home for only 2 months a year. We come another year, we had a young kid. It was just, I chose family life over that and just set up doing it, which was, I still think the best decision I've ever made.
It's really interesting. So, like, for my memory, so you're saying that, like, when you kind of you signed that 4-year contract with Rio Pipo, and then only within a couple of years of that, you were kind of just like, you know what, I'm all right? Or did you kind of see it through?
No. I did the apprenticeship, but my boss was cool enough. He was a surfer.
Yeah.
So I still went to Hawaii every year.
Yeah.
I did a Tahiti trip every year.
Yeah.
And it was one of those years that I had like 3 front covers in the same month.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like it was a really productive period for you.
Yeah,
for bodyboarding.
but I really handpicked the trips I did, and they had to be with the right crew and for the right reasons. I just couldn't go somewhere and, like before we'd go to Tahiti and just go 2 months Tahiti or 2 months in Hawaii, whatever it was, and it was like I've got 2 weeks off a few times a year. That's all I can do. So made the best out of it, and still, I don't know, things. I don't know. Everything seems to work out all right.
Yeah. With that kind of period of like doing the apprenticeship and maintaining that kind of professional bodyboard, because it kind of almost feels like it wasn't. You were no longer a professional bodyboarder as soon as you started the apprenticeship,
that's how
right?
it felt.
Yeah, but you still managed to do so much.
Yeah.
As a professional bodyboarder for everyone else's perception of you.
It financed, because I was still getting paid in, I guess, equivalent to today's standards pretty well.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
Like out of as an apprentice, you make your first year apprentice as an electrician. Back then, you probably made $200 a week, and I was still like, I bought a house outright in that period. It was.
So Rio Pipo was a good sponsor still at that time.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And the people that I was around from a very young age, like I started with them at 15. Well, no, even earlier, maybe 13 with Rio Pipo. But the people that I was with, so like Benny Holland, Ian Stewart.
Yeah.
Ian Stewart was best man at my wedding.
Yeah.
Ben Holland's still one of my best friends to this day. Like brothers sort of thing. Like, I never changed sponsor. I never tried to.
Yeah.
That's me. It's like, I'm a loyal dude. It's just what it was. But I was also very fortunate that the people that I had backing me were loyal to and took care of me.
It's funny because John Holmes was the founder of Rio Pipo, and I've just recorded he's since passed away, but he was a copper before that, wasn't he? He was pretty. Like I never got to meet him, but I'd heard his reputation was like he was a tough guy.
So the best one was I was very young. I went down to the factory. Took my dad came with me. My dad's a old school builder, so he is also a tough guy and knows how to deal with people. And John's like, his chair in his office is up here. Everyone else's is down low. And he's like, take a seat. My dad's like, no, I'll stand. And he's like, all right, so you're paying Adam. Okay, he's on the Central Coast. Get him working in the factory. If the surf's not good, if you're paying him, why isn't he in his shaping boards? Why isn't he sweeping up? Why isn't he learning the ropes here? And John's just like, this dude's epic.
I was gonna say.
But that's what my start of Rio Pipo was.
Wow.
So I got to spend time when the waves were good. Obviously, I surfed, but if I was on the Central Coast and the waves were shit, I was in working. Got to know everyone in the factory. Got to know the shapers. Got to know the ins and outs of making boards.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that. That's really cool. So, what did that kind of? How far did that really take itself in the factory setting? Like, was it up to you to turn up, or was John just like,
no, it was
hey,
up to me.
There's no waves.
No, it was up to me.
Oh, okay, so you would walk in and
completely
go,
up to me. But then the thing was, he saw I was willing to work for it.
Yeah.
And that's been my upbringing. And I don't know, the best thing like I can learn from my dad that I picked up in my life is your word. Like, your word is everything. If you say you're gonna do something, you do it. That's it. So that's what I did.
That's funny.
So it was good though. The factory at Rio Pipo at that time also only worked 4 days a week. They did long hours those 4 days because Thursday night was a big night on the Central Coast.
Oh, okay.
So no one worked Friday.
Right.
So when I was young and wanted to party and whatnot, we didn't have to turn up the next day because that's what it was.
And this period, so this is the Central Coast years, and would you say that because this is kind of where, for me as a Grom, looking up to you and to the other guys at that time, like, you really, and I think Coxie was also spending a fair bit of time on the Central Coast.
Kane and I started going down there together. The first trip I ever did down that way was me, Ryan Spears.
Oh, yeah, right, cool.
Lloyd Llewellyn.
Yeah, wow.
And Coxie, and we went down and we went to the Hot Buttered Epic. I think it would have, I was 13.
Right.
13,
So,
maybe 14.
Who was driving?
Spearsy.
Okay, Spearsy was the older
so
one.
he was a few years on me. But so that was the first, I think, maybe the first pro event I went in. And we've turned up there and like we've all pulled, like, in the morning we've opened up this fair and Spearsy's door and like 4 of us have piled out. Like, and people are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I had, I still remember I had Bullet, I had Eppo, my first heat, those two, and I was just like, oh my God, these are my heroes. Like, but it was just so cool.
Yeah.
And then through Rio Pipo, the team manager was Clinton Lowe.
I remember Clinton.
Yeah, Lowy.
Was he from WA originally or not?
Central
was
Coast
he a Central Coast guy? Okay.
Yeah, but so he invited me after there was a world tour event at Maroochydore.
Yes, that was the first
one, wasn't it? As part of the,
like, exactly.
And like Maroochydore Beach, like where I grew up, I was across the road from Maroochydore Beach. I was in my bedroom and I heard my name get announced going, Adam Keegan, your heat started. And I ran down and somehow got through.
Yeah.
I was young and ended up doing alright in that one. But
you did, didn't you? Didn't you beat Stewart or something? Or was that another comp later?
That was more at Pro at the Goldie.
Yeah, okay.
But
I jumped ahead maybe a few years there.
Yeah, only not too many, but this one was, I actually had Kingy in my heat.
Right, and this is the first GOB event. This is like
first one. We were in juniors. It ended up being me, Blake Copeland, Scott Arena, Luke Cousins, maybe. Yeah, they were all 3 Central Coast guys in the final like me, and this was juniors. Yeah, so I was only a cadet at the time.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, like I turned up late for this heat with Kingy, and I swear that's where he's got this. I turned up 10 minutes ago and just like. Adrenaline just got it done and now it's one of the things he's like known to do, so I think it's just got,
you started it.
I don't want to say that, maybe you just picked up on a good thing,
the pressure.
Yeah, just adrenaline, it helps.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so from that early age then you were into the competitions, weren't you? That was kind of like your thing or not?
I'm the most competitive person in everything that you'll ever meet. If we play a game of cards, I don't want to lose.
Yeah, sure.
You
must have hated that time I beat you at the Jeff Wilcox then.
Especially because you shouldn't have been in each division. No, look, nowadays I've chilled out a lot, but even I try to teach my kids, be competitive, but be, how do you say it? Be humble, be nice, do the work, and then if you're good at something, you don't have to tell people you're good at something because other people do that for you. But now I'm scared when I go on comps. Like the last Wilcox, 2 years ago, I ended up winning the Pro and the Masters.
Yeah, right.
And then Johnny Krushank did that last year.
Yeah.
And I just got to throw it out there. He is one of the best riders I've seen in years.
He's like a really dangerous competitor.
He's just
I hate being in a heat with him.
He's just a really good, like, in terms of what I like to watch surfing.
Yeah, right.
I could watch him surf all day.
Yeah.
I just think he is like poetry in motion, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, he's got a beautiful, smooth style.
Yep.
Like, it's really
very
solid. Yeah, nothing's ever
forced. And
that's true.
It's one of those ones where I'd rather watch that than someone trying to flip on silly waves. It's just...
Coming on to that question, like, I mean, so you were a competitive guy at a young age, but you also managed to really kind of develop your own style. I felt like back when you were coming up, you were pretty radical. You were kind of throwing those kind of golf spins was kind of a thing that was very recognisable for you. where did your development of your own style kind of come from? Which influences did you look at as you were developing your writing, would you say?
Ben Holland.
Ben Holland.
Ben Holland, The Waves of the Central Coast. There
Yeah.
was, and in saying that, Ben Holland's the most smoothest, most technically correct bodyboarder of, like obviously Stewart, Hardy are there, but Ben is, I'd say the waves that we surfed, they were, and I was trying to like do moves in, I guess, would surf like low tide banzai.
Yeah.
Even if it was onshore, I'd surf there every day.
Yeah,
And it was just like a little ramp, and I'd just be trying to pop airs and do whatever, and it was purely out of that. It was, and I think it was at that time there was a lot of pressure that, how do you say it? That there was the technical surfing of, say, Ryan, and everyone wanted to mimic him.
Yeah.
I've never been a follower. I just did my thing. It was what it was. I eventually, like, Ben sponsored me with Kapaloa fins, and it was almost like me and Ben were Australian, but we were more of an international blend than what, if you said Australian riders, don't think you would think of us.
Nah, I know what you mean.
And so we had influences from all over, like Daniel Rocha, Peanut.
Yeah. Brazilian, right?
Yeah. So we spent a lot, because Ben, like, you've talked to Ben a lot.
Yeah.
And you stayed in Hawaii in the house with us and all the Groms and
and
you saw how tight I was with all those guys. It's just...
Yeah, I think it's but it is interesting to pick up on that point you make there, because there was this style difference between like Ben and you were on this other kind of style trajectory. And I'd even also put Nathan Purcell also
100%.
Like some of those and to an extent I do think Lester was also a little bit different with his style approach. He was a bit more funky. But then
I bring up Lester, I'm glad you did, because we did a trip to the Hinakos in Sumatra.
Yeah.
And I never really spent any time surfing with Lester outside of contests.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I think in my mind he is the best pocket surfer that I've ever seen.
I'd 100% agree with that.
He is... Kingy gets called that. I've never really... I haven't spent all that much time with Kingy. I'm sure he is, but Lester, oh my God. He was like... After that trip, I walked away just saying, he's the man. He's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's a very unique style, and I think that, like, there is that, you're right, that kind of thing where everybody looked at Ryan as the definition of Australian style, and then Mitch and Ben, and, everyone went that way. They all wore Churchills. I mean, and I mean, to an extent, the fins you wore in Australia were also an interesting factor.
At the end, so it was a hard one for me, because Ben Holland and I are best friends. Dead set love him. He's like a brother. At the end, I had to try to separate myself from Ben a bit, because I was considered... Ben was here, I was here, but I was always in his shadow.
Yeah.
So, at the end, I started wearing old school Redleys.
Yeah.
Doing just my own thing, because it was... I just had to do something different, because if not, I would never get away from him, especially with Rio Popo. Rio Popo... Anyone who knows Rio Popo knows Ben Holland. That's...
Yeah, he was the main name there.
It's just what it was. And then so I was sponsored by Bad Boy, and then soon after that, Ben came to Bad Boy.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It was like we were...
Well, it looked like you guys were just a package deal for every sponsor.
That's right. and look, it worked good.
Yeah.
But still, I had to somehow do something different, because it was what it was.
How... coming back to that Central Coast connection and how that development of your riding took place, probably were those the most formative years for you with your riding, that Central Coast moment? Because you were putting a lot of time in down there. How did it work with this introduction to Ian Stewart in all this? Because... how did that start out? Because that was pretty important for your whole career, right? The relationship there.
Ian was the best man at my wedding.
Yeah, right.
So I met Ian Stewart through Tim Jones.
Okay.
So Tim Jones was team manager of Rio Pipo.
Okay.
So I went down and stayed with Tim. Tim's roommate was Ian Stewart.
That's right. Yeah, okay. This is early days, isn't it?
Early days. And then me and Coxie went down, stayed there. Like, I'd been on the Central Coast a few times before. Like, I actually surfed Indies or the Zone before Tim ever did. And he lived on the Central Coast.
Right.
I first surfed when I was like 14 with Lowy. Then I went down, stayed with Tim. And it was strange. There was like this weird thing between Tim and I, because I was like the upcoming Rio Popo guy. He was the team manager, but almost like
Team member still?
Team member, but somewhat on the way out, and I was coming up. And I had a really tough time when I stayed at the Central Coast with them, and the waves were good, and Tim would go surfing, and I was left there.
Okay.
Then Ian would come back, and this shouldn't probably go on here, but then Ian would come back, and Ian was such a legend. He was like, "Hey, what's going on? Let's go surf."
Yeah.
And since then, Ian was sort of a big brother figure to me.
Yeah, right.
And then we did West Oz trips. Then so I was 15. Ben, Ian, myself went to Tahiti. Would go there and just camp for a month.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, that was before Chopu was a known thing.
Yeah.
Like, the first trip I did there was Stewart, Chris Wan.
Yeah, right.
Like, Wan's laughing at me going, "You don't know how to surf reefs, do you?" And I'm like, "Not really." So and like the first day I ever surfed Chopes, it was like 10 foot. Like, Stewart went straight on one. And I was just sitting there, like, paddling out going, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
I think I went like a little, like, it was probably 6 to 8 foot, and just a little inside, like, yeah, so pumped.
It's so intense.
But I did that before Hawaii, before anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was that. But that whole how much of an influence did, apart from that kind of meeting Ian Stewart, that relationship over the years, became a really, and it still is, a great friendship.
Yep.
How important was that for your career development? Without it, without that influence, without that push, because he's such a good, like.
Oh, he's
I was
so
laughing
hard.
about it with Ben Holland.
He's so hardcore too.
So hardcore.
So okay, you know the Riptide cover.
Exactly. That's where I want to get to. That's where I want to get to.
So I'm 15 with Surfing Indies. It was massive.
Yeah.
And set rolls in, and we're like, Jonesy paddled for the first one, pulled back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was in the right spot. Oh my God! And I was such a frother.
Yeah.
Next one came up. I'm going no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm gone, and obviously went over the falls. I got under the ledge. I almost drowned.
Oh right, so you got pushed back under the ledge.
Under the ledge, swum up, hit reef from
no way.
under. Then I had to because I snorkeled out there. I know what it is. Swam out, came up, blew 2 flippers off. Like, fucking thought I died.
Yeah. And
Stu's, the first thing he said to me, yelled at me, and went, "If you held onto your board, you would have had cover. What the fuck?" And I'm like a 15-year-old at the time, just like, just thought I'd died. And then he gave me like one of his flippers. Go back out and get another one. One flipper. Gave me like this old school Man of Blade, like an extra large. I'm out there like floundering, just like. But no, he
And you did get a cover.
Yeah. But that was the same time. I was 15 when I got that. And that cover came out when virtually it was pretty much it all happened that year. That was the year that I won that Morrow Pro when against Mike.
Didn't you win the national title that year as well? Didn't you get a national title?
Yeah. So I won the
cadets. Yeah.
I won the cadet Aussies, and then I was never allowed to compete in the Aussies again.
Oh, because you were a pro.
I was a pro. The only person that rules ever. Me and Spearsy.
I've never heard of that rule before.
Me and Spearsy, Queensland didn't allow us.
They just wouldn't let you compete anymore.
Wouldn't allow us to compete. So if we didn't qualify, I couldn't even back up my Aussie title.
That's hectic.
Since then, I've now won another 3. Though.
Change of the bureaucracy at Queensland Bodyboy.
Yeah, well, now I just do it for fun. Me and Lloyd go down and have a weekend of it.
Yeah.
But so then did that pro event, and I was like, I ended up getting, I think, second on the Aussie tour when I was 15, and then that cover came out, and it was just like,
That's a year. That's a big year.
yeah.
So, because a lot of people who listen to this and watch this were people who grew up frothing on you and all those guys, but there's a lot of others who have no concept maybe of even what it means to get a cover of Riptide magazine. Like, what was that feeling like when you learned about it, and then obviously you would have seen it in a newsagent, right? Like, is that how that worked? Like, can you go through the kind of feeling and the emotions of it all?
Back in the day, it was before digital.
Yeah.
So what we used to do, like, we'd go back to Ian's house and we'd watch us do a slideshow.
Yeah.
When we got a
do a slideshow.
Yeah, when we got a roll of film back,
funny.
you'd sit there and you'd just we all like, sat there. Yeah. We all sat there like just looking at these shots going
on the wall, right? So what, a projector screen on the wall?
On the wall, just and we all just sat there and just sort of like went. It was like we all just sat there and just, oh my god! And I was blown away. I'm like, I thought I went over 4 something like maybe a 6 foot, and then we're like looking at this thing, just going, oh shit, that's it. It was like, guys have definitely done more hardcore stuff now, but at the time it was pretty nuts.
Oh, it was super nuts.
And I was sitting there just like, oh wow. And then I was at a comp at D-Bar. It must have been the Aussie titles at D-Bar that year. And Simon Ramsey, I think, came and put the proof in my lap.
Yeah, right.
Before it was out, and I was like,
That's
oh my
sick.
God.
That's sick. That's a nice little motivator.
Yeah, and then it was like, it was a pretty wild time in my life. Things were changing very quickly.
Yeah. How did it feel to, because that was the moment, like, off the bat, that's a big year. So, like, you've got some amazing competition results. You've landed a cover of the biggest magazine in the world for bodyboarding.
And I think my board model came out that year too.
Okay, so everything. So was the board model already in the works before the cover, or was that after?
So I wasn't riding. So that board's still inverted. I give all, like, Ben Wells has got all my boards sort of there, but no, I didn't have that. It was pretty much after that. Then I was winning the Australian Tour, and then had a double interference, me, Ben Holland, and Bullet, that cost me the Australian Tour.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's get back to that after this question.
So then then the next year, then I was 15, went to Haiti the first time, went to Hawaii the first time, and still that year gets even better because I met one of my best friends in the world, Cap Sanderson.
Yeah, right. So on the first Hawaii trip.
Yeah, so me and him became mates then, and he came on my 40th to Sumatra. I went to his 40th to Vegas.
Yeah.
We talk every week. It's
epic. So it all kicked off from there, but that whole board coming out, was that after the cover? Like, how did that situate itself? So what, John Holmes was like, okay, kid, you've got a board model.
It was pretty much like, I don't know, it just was all happening. There wasn't a moment where it was like, I think it was just all of a sudden I was somewhat in the same realm as Ben. And when I first met Ben, it was like, he's a superstar sort of thing. And then all of a sudden it was that everyone I was around, even Ben Player, Kingy, all these guys, but I was probably the first out of all of us that same, they're roughly my age, maybe a year older. Yeah. But I've always been classed as older.
Yeah.
But I think I was the first to have their own board model. But it was because I'd been with Vero Popo for years and years and came up through the ranks.
So the relationship was really established by then.
Yeah.
With that brand itself, did you jump on because I just recorded with Ben Holland, and he was talking about how he was such a busy pro bodyboarder. He was 9 months out of the year.
Yeah,
he was.
We were
you on that whole?
Yeah, man.
We were on that whole journey.
So Ben and I would it was so cool though. Everywhere I went, I had a big brother looking after me. So we'd go to Japan, and it was Ben had been there before, and it was he knew everyone, and I was along for the ride.
Yeah.
Then I'd turn up to Hawaii, and it's I try to explain to even my kids, everyone, traveling then wasn't the same as now.
Yeah.
You can't go on Airbnb and book someone. You can't. You had to get there and try to organise something.
Yeah.
I didn't have to. Ben was already there and
Yeah.
had my accommodation organised.
Yeah.
Or we'd go somewhere and he'd just pull out the Rio credit card and go,
Bosh.
yeah. Even if we did good, it was like nights out, Rio card. Just.
So he controlled the card. You never had full control of the
I
card.
was 15.
Yeah, that's right.
Until I was 18. At 18, I got given one.
Oh, you got one at 18.
Yeah, but
that would have been a nice moment.
Yeah, but before that, it was like it was
Ben.
pretty much. So can I? But he was like the man. Like,
Yeah.
he is the most generous, epic dude in the world.
Was his involvement in your early years then, was that a really important factor in you being able to do this kind of stuff? Like, would your parents have probably put the brakes on a little bit if you were doing this? You wouldn't have been able to do this solo.
Well, see, now that I've got kids,
Yeah.
there's no way that my kids at 13 are ready to do what my parents stood back and allowed me to do.
How wild is it, hey?
Like, yeah, but my parents knew Ben. My parents knew Ian.
Okay.
So Ian is
He's the eldest of the crew.
out of the crew, and I guess there's a difference once you're getting paid as well, and it's actually a
it's a real
job
thing.
scenario. But Ian was probably the one that my parents went, all right, he's got his crap together. He's a good guy, and Ben was loose as shit. Like it's true. Like, we had so many loose times, and it was fantastic. But it's I think without Ian, my parents may have not allowed a lot of the things to happen that did.
Yeah, that's funny. Like a lot of the stories you tell about Ian being that responsible adult in the scene.
Oh, you
I
know
mean,
him
he
a
was
different
my...
way.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but like he was the responsible adult for me too, because many of my early trips were with him. He
Yeah,
was the first
that's
guy I was
right.
allowed overseas
Well,
with.
we were in a clothing company that sponsored
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I got the sponsorship.
Yeah.
That was sick. But like it was like I often look back on it and he did. I was treated like a little brother / nephew, because
Yeah.
I think the age gap was a bit more. So maybe you got the little brother treatment. I maybe got the nephew treatment.
But I think I also I think I got all the grommet abuse.
Yeah.
And I think by the time anyone else came after me, he'd realised. And I'd snapped at him a few times.
Yeah, I had to as well
And
once.
like, pulled him in the line a bit and went, no, enough's enough.
Yeah.
But the way I was treated in those young years, Jesus Christ, no one these days is allowed to be treated that way.
I know.
But look, it's good, and mate. It's
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It is. Like, I got knocked.
I don't think we can talk about a lot of treatment.
I got knocked out twice in 1 week. once, and now I'm an electrician. I know how bullshit this is. I left a PowerPoint. The switch turned on it. So he grabbed me by the head and just like ran me into the wall and knocked out. And I'm like, he's like, you're wasting my power. I'm like, no, not true.
Not true. There's nothing plugged in. There's no power being used.
No, but
so what was the second knockout? How did you get the second?
In that week, Ben Holland. I ran on the beach. He dropped a flipper, so I threw it down the beach. He was riding a backtail board. Of like, turned around, somebody he's just going stoink. I'm just like, ow.
It was madness. I mean, yeah, like the amount of times I was threatened with a chalk nose.
Oh, the chalk. Well, I can say ones that can't go on here, but
Tell one you can tell that can go on here. Get one out that can work on here.
The first West Oz one, there was the Rio Popo team was me, Hayden Bunning, Shane Chalker,
right. Yeah.
Tim Jones,
Yeah.
Ian Stewart, Ben Holland, of course, Greg Marshall, who's just one of Ian's best mates. He came to Sumatra with me. So we decided it was flat or bad weather for a week, so we got boxing gloves. And so me and Hayden were like the youngins. Hayden was like 18, I was like 15.
Yeah.
And we're like, gloves on. And he's just like gone at me. And I'm like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And he's just like beat the shit out of me for a minute.
Yeah.
And then he's run out of puff.
Yeah.
He's just like taking them off. And I'm like, no, it's
on.
And no, it's over.
Oh.
And then, but I ended up, I don't know how, I think it was Jonesy, threw me through a wall don't know really what went down, but we ended up throwing through the wall. It was somehow Tim got this house through because he was sponsored by West Wetsuits.
Ah, yeah.
He lost his sponsorship over how this house was left. It was like not cool. Like I actually got thrown through a wall. It was just insane. And like that was even before. Like we will go on the pub, and like I was at the pub in Mars when I was like 15, and no one questioned anything.
Nah.
It was just insane.
Yeah, and this is all while you're under the guidance of the responsible Ian Stewart.
That's right. If Mum and Dad knew, right?
But I mean, I think, to be fair to him as well, and I'm gonna chase him down to get a podcast interview, because I think there's a huge legacy from him
he is
in
also,
bodyboarding that needs to be understood.
I would also say that Ian's the best storyteller I've ever met.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller.
He can tell a yarn. He's the man. But he's also, like, he was in Chopes before it was really a known thing. Like, he also charges on a boog. Like, there's times where I'll say to him, Stews, give me your camera, you catch a wave, and he'll just like...
He has a go.
Oh man, I'll show you this footage from Sumatra. He's maybe 45, 46 now.
Yeah.
And he was ripping.
He's still fit as a fiddle though.
Oh yeah,
it's hectic.
He's insane, but he cut his hand. Like he dropped, one of the boys left a bottle at a waterfall they went to, like a beer bottle. And Ian went and picked it up, and he slipped and he got himself stitches. So the next day he's surfing, like 8 foot honey smacks with one hand.
Yeah, right.
Like rubber glove, everything, and he's doing double hand cutties with one hand. He's just, he's the best.
He doesn't do anything by halves. I think, like, when he's committed to something, so, like, I remember times, when we were in Tahiti on some of these early trips, and he would literally just be in the water for, like, 8 hours straight, no sun cream, and he just punched through.
He doesn't wear sunscreen.
Yeah, he doesn't wear any sunscreen, does he? And
he
like,
believes it's cancerous.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see in the end, I guess. Yeah. But his back would he'd just lose layers of skin.
First 2 days,
and he'd asked me to put the moisturiser on his back afterwards. Like, he didn't believe in sun cream, but he believed in moisturiser.
That's right. It doesn't make sense.
But like,
maybe he was just keen on you.
I know, you never know. You never know. But like, he would put so much effort in. I just remember the classic example. And then also, when you're riding and he's shooting, he's abusing you like the highest decibels. Like, he's screaming at you every single way.
Jonesy picked up on that.
Yeah, Jonesy was bloody good at it too. Yeah, Jonesy's full on.
But like, the one thing I'll say with Stews is every time I've ever shot with him, he's prepared to be more committed or put himself in the danger zone as much as we are.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And there's very few photographers that I've ever seen do that.
Yeah. No, he definitely just put everything into it. And
he's just one of the most hardcore, dedicated people to whatever he does. And the exception to that, I would say, is Chris White.
Okay.
So even now, what he's doing, that Ninja Warrior, if he decides to do something, they don't do it by halves. Yeah. They do it to a level that, to the majority of people, we go, that's a bit obsessive, or they might be a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
But that's the level it takes to get that sort of results, I guess.
Yeah. In the career, like, when you kind of sit here today, I'm still blown away that, when was the last years of you being a professional bodyboarder? How old were you when you hung it up and you kind of just moved on and got on with life? How old do you think you were? I
still had board models when I was like 27.
Okay, 27. But you weren't really pushing, like, it was kind of just on the shelf.
No, I was a family man. I was doing everything but that.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just, and like for years I didn't compete at all. I've come back to it now a little bit, and it came about because my boys, I surfed with them all the time, and they joined the local bodyboarding club.
Yeah.
Then I went back, and now, like, for years we were a very close-knit, just family. Like, I didn't see anyone, didn't do much, and then that sort of like woke it up, and I went in a comp, and I think it was like the state titles, and I won that, and then I went, oh, okay, cool, let's do the Aussies. I won that. And it was
That's
just,
hilarious.
yeah, that's what it was.
Looking back on the career when it was actually a profession, like, do you feel like it's a moment that just is never going to repeat itself? Like, what it seemed like you kind of got the tail end of the boom of bodyboarding.
Yeah, so from talking to Ben and Eppo, who, Eppo's around the corner, we're good mates. I think I had the tail end of it, that's for sure. It was like Jake Stone is a dead set legend, one of the most talented, hardest working, great people. He will never make the money we make.
Nah.
And that's not to do with his skill. His skill is far better than what mine ever was. It's to do with the timing, industry, the world around us. It's, I don't know. Like, even back then, you had there was guys sponsored by Billabong, Quicksilver. There was all these big sort of things, but I think maybe it will come back around when say Unite or Grand Flavor and these brands, if everyone gets behind them and really pushes the bodyboarding specific brands and bodyboarding stores like Inverted, Boogie King, all that, and there's more money back in the industry, they'll put it back. It's just it's in its infancy of that new wave.
When we were on the phone before I got here, we were talking briefly about the Ben Severson board that just got sold, right?
Yeah.
So I think this kind of links back into that because, like, it's kind of like, for me, I haven't fully processed. There's so many things whirling around in my head about it, about good, bad, ugly. What does it mean? What is it a good thing? I don't know how to process it yet. But how do you look at all this? Because that's the generation before you, before you.
So, well, it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, right.
So because Ben Holland, when I first went to Hawaii, the people I hung out with was Ben Severson.
Yeah, sure.
It's because Ben Holland was really good mates with Ben. So I got to surf Sandy Beach with Ben, Jack Lindholm, all these guys. Like, I got to be with this crew that was honestly classed as the older generation, but I was somewhat a part of it. I don't know, in terms of the board sale, I was willing to pay quite a lot of money for that board, or a few of those, but there's, I guess, people now that we're all got older, some of us been very financially successful in life, and if you want something,
you can buy it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I see it. Like, if I was a millionaire and I had a pool room, do I want a Michael Jordan jersey signed? If that was my thing and you had money to burn, do it. So that's where I think this comes into it. It's
But what about the culture? Because for me, it's like you mentioned Unite and Grand Flavor, and like, these are brands that I don't know how well they're doing or not, but I assume that they're kind of just getting along. They're not blowing doors open. They're not like expanding
it's hard, man. It's
hard. Of course it's hard, but some people were willing to spend thousands of dollars on an artifact from history, and it makes me wonder, like, is the problem that we don't have brands that are led by the original pioneers? So, like, if there were brands that had Ben Severson attached to them, if there were brands that had Jack Lindholm attached to them, is that what maybe the secret is here? Because the boom of bodyboarders
but
is a generation ago. The consumers are there.
In saying that, Mike Stewart's still got his brand.
Yeah, he's still there.
Like, I think people want to relive their youth.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I think they want to remember what they were once connected to with when they were young, and remember, hey, these guys were superstars in my eyes. I think that as we get older, we realise people are people, and you may lose that hero worship.
They lose their god status.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people would do anything to get that back. Which, like, for me growing up, man, like, Stewart was the man. Like, Ben Severson was great, but I idolised my Stewart. I just anything. It's what it was, and now I think that the problem is with, even I look at my kids, the world's so open now with the internet, with like when I was young growing up, Sunshine Coast, you surfed, you played football, that was virtually it. Now they've got access to everything via the internet.
Yeah.
So there's basketball players, there's all different things.
Do the gods die quicker in this age? Like the gods
definitely.
before lived longer. They come and go a lot faster.
Yeah, because everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame now.
Yeah.
Whereas back then it was like they were the ones.
They were the ones. Yeah, they had the covers. They had the
it
endorsements.
all. It was what it was, and there was very few. And I even think, in some ways, in bodyboarding nowadays, I think there's far too many people with signature models.
Yeah.
That actually floods the market a little bit and stops other people from doing it. And I still think that, which is a touchy subject, I think the people from my age should actually step aside a little bit and let the next generation come through. And that just hasn't happened. Because there's no new guns, because there's still the guys virtually our age with the board models doing their thing, because hey, it's their job. Well, they don't want to step aside from it.
Yeah. So there isn't that renewal of the heroes coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I mean, it's really interesting with my experience going back on the world tour. Like, there is this crop of guys from WA, Louis, George, and wingers. You know, they are.
I don't know them personally,
but you would love it.
I watch
you would love them.
They're insane.
You would very much love them on a few levels.
But see, I think one of the best things is you doing the world tour. I actually think it's fantastic. But I don't think you're chasing an income out of it. I don't think you're chasing that. Like, I don't think you're pushing the boundaries.
No.
I think what you're doing is pushing your own boundaries and doing it for yourself and for the right reasons. Same as if I do the Jeff Wilcox. If I win, if I lose, I'm there for a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I think there needs to be the people with the roadway or the pathway, if they are really, really good, that they can get onto the world tour, or they can, like make a movie, or they can inspire the next generation. And it's just, I don't see that there's that opportunity.
Yeah, there's a big void there, isn't there? It's super interesting because that void is being filled in other countries. Like, there are young Chileans who are coming up. There are young Brazilians. You know, there's young Portuguese and French.
Do you want the day to come where Australia's not a superpower in bodyboarding?
I think it's already here.
Yeah, that's sad though.
It is, and that's why I was saying my experience on the world tour is like, it seems absurd to me that I'm there, like, representing Australia when I know that there's all these guys over here who are just like...
It's a financial...
It's a financial thing. I can afford to do it, and that's really bad. Like, to me, that's a really shocking thing to acknowledge. Like, I can be there because I can afford to be there, and then, you know, I go and see all these other riders around Australia. There's good guys. Shaden Schrader comes to mind for me, right? Absolutely rips.
And Liam Lucas.
Yep,
he is
100%.
In my mind, he is... I've seen some footage of him. Oh my God, he is... And he's got the whole package. He's a great rider, but he also has like his dad's. He's got the right support network that he could, given the right opportunity, go far. Yeah, and
100%.
It's just sad that there's not the financial backing of some of those people. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have the answer to any of it.
Well, I mean, for me, I've always looked at this VBC group as part of the answer because, and it's kind of been validated a little bit somehow. I just wish there was somehow we could connect the dots between raising heaps of money. Because, I mean, I think on paper you could look at the Ben Sevison sales. I mean, I'm going to estimate that there was probably about, it must be nearly $30,000 US. 20 to 30,000 or even more.
There was 11,000 on one board.
On one board, yeah. So I didn't look at every single board sale, but they're all up there, right?
Even if you look at it one step further than that, imagine if you added up everything every person bid it.
Yeah.
So if you went, okay, everyone's $10 in towards something. What's $10 if you're
Yeah, I know.
willing to pay 11 grand?
I know. So how do we connect the dots between that? Because I want to see Liam Lucas on the world tour, and I want Shaden Schrader to be there for the whole time. Like me, I get to do nice podcast episodes, and every now and then I get a heat and I win one, or I get a lucky moment. I'm like, fuck, that felt good.
Hey, can I ask you one? So there's been a few days in my life where I've done comps where you just wake up and everything feels right and it goes your way.
Yeah.
I've always felt that I know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Have you had those ones?
I just think in the Canary Islands last year at Fronton when I finished 7th, that was probably that moment where just everything, I didn't have to do, there was no effort on my part. It was probably
Just
more
all
about
fell into
patience.
place?
Yeah, it was probably just me, because I just sat out the back and I just breathed.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of resigned myself
Everything
to the
else
result.
It just took its part.
Yeah, so the swell would come and I'd just be like, I will go this wave. And then I went the wave and I got the score.
That was pretty solid too.
Oh yeah, it was really solid.
I've never been there.
You'd love it. It's intense, but it's like, it's got some good ramps. And
it looks insane.
And just that amphitheatre. I respond really well to the arena.
Like an intimate sort of thing where you can hear the crowd.
Yeah, I do. I respond to that. I'm a bit of a show off, so like
I've never known that.
But I definitely, and that's why Shark Island was such a good event to compete in as well, because
that's another one I've never done.
Oh, you never did it.
God,
that's a beautiful event.
I never got invited.
Well, I didn't have to get invited. It was a tour event by the time I got there. So I was
back in the day, it was one that because the Central Coast and the
you couldn't get the blow-ins. You weren't one of the blow-ins.
No, because the Central Coast boys and the Nulla boys, it was sort of like a.
Oh. But you got heaped in with the Central Coasters then, didn't you?
Yeah, so
that's
I wasn't allowed.
God, that's a shame. Yeah, but see, same vibe. You get that amphitheatre. You walk through a crowd of a few thousand people to get your Rash Fest. Yeah. You feel like a somebody. You paddle out. You get a good wave, and people cheer. It's like sick.
Internationally around the world, different places, bodyboarding has got the audience and the backing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of, like, in Chile, it's interesting. They're very smart about the way they do their events, and people are proud, I think, to have international people at their place. So, and you would have probably experienced this with places like Japan, and half the Japanese people at that event didn't give a shit about bodyboarding. They were just there because there was something happening, and there was some strange white people there too. You know, like it's probably
even like that very first GOB event that was done at Maroochydore. It was done so well.
Yeah,
and it was done. It was carnival-like atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
It was. It
ropes them in.
Yeah, and it gets them in. And that was run by Bill Parada. I don't know if you remember.
The name's really familiar, but I don't know.
His two sons. I think they had like 7 or 8 kids in that family. But Pano is dead set legend. Really good drop knee. I think he won the Aussie tour, and then they went to.
That's maybe where the names.
Then Dwayne Parada as well. Those two were like also the local guys.
Yeah,
they were my massive influences.
Yeah, right. So that was their old man that put it together.
Yep.
There's a lot of old men that put shit together for bodyboarding. I mean, my father did a lot of stuff too.
Big Steve-o.
Steve-o put his time in. Yeah, but it's just really interesting. So yeah, like there are other countries that do have this kind of atmosphere.
Do you want another drink?
Well, I reckon we're getting towards the end of the podcast. So should we get to the end of the potty and then we'll wrap it up, or do you need a drink?
I probably do need a drink, but let's wrap it up.
But this has been a good podcast. You were reluctant to record this.
I know, because I don't think anyone has any interest in hearing what I've got to say.
We'll let all them decide.
That's all I'm saying. Like, as an old dude that maybe once did okay, it's what it is.
Well, your humbleness and your modesty in this question is probably appreciated from everyone listening. I mean, for me, you were a big influence for me as I grew up. So thank you for that influence and for that inspiration.
In the same way, you guys, I always looked at everyone young that came with us. Like there was you, there was Jono, there was. Man, I just saw what you guys were doing. It just pushed all of us.
Yeah, we tried to have a good dig, and I think just that environment. I got a lot of credit to Ian Stewart as well, because. He really, whilst the abuse was relentless, he really pulled out the best.
It does, and it's like out of everything that if I can say anything to anyone, I'm so grateful for the friends I've made out of bodyboarding, for, in a way, the life it's given me, because I still surf every day. I ride a surfboard a lot, but I ride a bodyboard when the waves are good. I still do a surfing trip every year if I can. It's still my life. It's doesn't come to being on the tour or doing anything. It's just what I love. And my best friends, my whole world, nearly every single person in my life can be traced back to a bodyboarding connection.
There's a nice way to finish a podcast. Shall we have dinner?
Let's eat.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
The boogie.